Okay, everybody, thanks for your time and effort and contribution for today. It's the Kirklees Schools Public Forum. There has been a briefing which has taken place before this meeting, and we are quorate, and we also have everybody present that is expected to be here. So I'm going to get straight on now and make a start. We're expecting to take an hour, and we really won't be overrunning much beyond that. Because other people have other commitments beyond this meeting. So really focused meeting, please, from everybody. And I'll start with item 1, which is apologies for absence. Liz, do you have a list of apologies?
Yes, I do. Let me give you those. So we've got Tom Brailsford, Martin Biro, Hazel Danson, Ian Rimmer, Kelsey Clark-Davis, Julia Arachiga, Rebecca Smith, Dave Wadsworth, Lisa Buckley, Louise Brown, and Michelle Lee.
All right, thank you very much for that. We're going to move on to item 2, which is minutes of the Schools Forum briefing, which were held on the 26th of November 2021. So we'll deal with 2 and 3 together, which are on any minutes and matters arising. I've had a quick look through. I can't see any major issues. So we'll start on page 1. Any actions arising out of that? Page 2, no comments. And no actions. Page 3. No comments. No actions. Page 4. And page 5. Okay. Nothing to report back there. So we'll move on from the minutes and the matters arising. That's 2 and 3 dealt with, Liz. And we'll move on to item 4. Which is the Kirklees Education and Learning Partnership Board, held on the 16th of February 2022. Is that over to you, Natalie?
It is. Thank you, Darren. I'll go through some points that were covered and hand over to other colleagues just to pick up a number of other things. So as Darren says, the Education Learning Partnership Board met on the 16th of February. There were a number of items that were discussed. So we talked about the SEND area inspection that took place within the local area just prior to February half term, which I think Joanne will say a few words on towards the end. We also have held a number of inclusion engagement sessions within Kirklees for schools and for internal officers. There were 3 sessions that were held throughout February, which were really, really well attended. So thank you to everybody that attended those. There were over 200 people that attended those. As part of those engagement sessions, we looked at a number of reviews that had been undertaken within the local authority over a number of years. And also had a conversation about collaboration and support for the future and next steps. We have committed to providing a post-engagement report, which will be issued to schools next week, summarising the outcomes of the sessions and further feedback from schools. What we have also committed to do is to schedule a number of other engagement sessions on a termly basis, and we'll be able to issue the hold the dates for schools next week as well. There are a number of DFE consultations that are live or have recently closed, and they are around the revised behaviour in schools guidance and suspensions and permanent exclusion guidance. That consultation is due to close on the 31st of March. The school attendance, improving consistency of support, that closed last week, the 28th of February. And there's also the Keeping Children Safe in Education, which is due to close on the 11th of March. So encouraging schools and colleagues to complete and feed back into those consultations. We also talked about the removal of the local authority monitoring and brokering grant, and the options and the position for Kirklees School, school improvement moving forward. So there is an ask from the board and an agreement that we will bring an options paper to schools forum in the near future. Chris and his team and wider colleagues gave an overview and a summary of the education outcomes report, which I think Chris will give us some headlines on. And I'll hand over to you, Chris, now to give the headlines on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. The draft education and outcomes report was shared with ELPB colleagues before it went to Children's Assurance Panel. The report itself outlined the information made available at a local authority level in terms of Key Stage 4 and Key Stage 5 outcomes, and it included an analysis of key measures. As colleagues are aware, no Key Stage 2 statutory data was available to report upon. The report also outlined the work of the Kirklees Learning Partners during 2020-2021, their continued support and challenge to schools, and the impact of their work. It included evidence of training, continuing professional development, and also Ofsted visits. The report itself is now on a flight path to Cabinet. Thank you, Natalie.
Thanks, Chris. Jo, over to you.
Good morning, colleagues. So it's Joanne Sanders, Service Director for Kirklees Council. Just to update forum, I'm sure you'll be aware, but the local area, so it's not just the local authority, it's all of us in the local area, had our special educational needs and disabilities inspection undertaken by both Ofsted and CQC. That technically started on the 31st of January with the inspectors doing their field work between the 7th and the 11th of February. It was just that opportunity to say thank you. Thank you to all our partners. Of course, what we will be expecting now is there's a letter that comes post that area inspection. The inspectors came to look at 3 aspects: how well, as a local area, we identify the needs of youngsters with special educational needs and/or disabilities, how well then the partnership, the local area, meets those needs, and then the impact on outcomes for those youngsters and their families. We have had, as is normal in these situations, some verbal feedback, and but we are awaiting now that written report back to us. As soon as that's made available to us, we undertake a factual accuracy check. Before then, we anticipate that being published by Ofsted. We don't have any timings for that yet, but as soon as we do, of course, we'll be really keen to share that with everybody across the district. But yeah, just thank you to everybody for being open, honest and transparent in that inspection. Okay, thank you.
Okay, everybody, thanks for that. Any other comments on item 4? All right, moving on then, we'll go to item 5, which is the safety valve funding programme, which is now a standing item, and we'll hand over to Eamon Croston for an update, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, my name's Eamon Croston, Service Director Finance for Kirklees Council. Very brief update. So, as you know, we've been negotiating with the Department for Education as a participant in the safety valve funding programme, which is aimed to support councils reduce their councils with significant dedicated schools grant deficits. So we've had our conversations and negotiations with DFE over a number of weeks, and they've now confirmed that they've signed off our management plan in principle on the 24th of February and submitted it to the Secretary of State for consideration. So at that point, or at this point, nothing's been approved yet, so it's still under consideration. We won't get any official confirmation either way until week commencing 21st of March. So there's obviously a current embargo and any details being made public. We're also intending to submit a capital bid to the Department for Education for some sufficiency funding to support our SEND transformation agenda. And the deadline for that is the 18th of March. As a safety valve participant, we're fast-tracked to the funding that's government made extra funding government made available through the spending review back in October. This is obviously linking our bid to sufficiency requirements that will support our transformation agenda on SEND as well, and deliver our savings targets, as well as better outcomes for pupils supported. However, this capital bid is also linked to Secretary of State approval for the safety file funding agreement, so it's all kind of interdependent. But either way, following Secretary of State decision, week commencing the 21st of March, we will be bringing a further detailed update report back to Schools Forum on the agenda, and also bring something forward to Cabinet, because obviously in the corporate member arena, there's significant interest in this as well. So we will be updating everybody. Thank you.
Okay, sounds like really strong work by the local authority in that regard, and really good progress by the sounds of it. So we look forward to further information on that. Does anybody have any questions for Eamon? All right, great work, and keep it up, and let's see what comes out of it. Item 6 then, please, the details of the 2022-2023 DSG settlement and the shape of schools funding moving forward into next year. So David Baxter, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, just like to give a brief update on where we're at with the school funding for 2022-2023. Effectively, since the last public meeting, we completed the consultation process that was completed in December 2021. That information, then the feedback from that consultation was part of the wider cabinet report that was completed and approved in the 18th of January 2022. That again incorporated all aspects that has been discussed throughout School Forum throughout the period between July and the subsequent drafting of the cabinet report. That details all the aspects that major considerations we've got in there, including the high needs block transfer, where we've put the £1.6 million effectively from the schools block into the high needs block. So again, that was considered in there, and all the references to the disapplication request for the Ashbrow School, and noting all the relevant impacts of various funding changes that have gone through there. So the cabinet report went through on the 18th of January 2022. That was approved. The authority performer tool, which is the documentation that goes back to the SFA, that was submitted on the 14th of January in advance of the cabinet report, but that's again down to timing. That's just to get the political approval alongside the submission to the SFA. Again, that documentation was submitted in a timely manner on the 14th of January 2022. That resulted in initial compliance questions coming back early February, 4th of February, where we was challenged on various aspects. Moreover, validation checks in terms of how the documentation is being pulled together, and potentially looking at impacts on particular schools. So looking at how that works through from one financial year to another, and effectively these are elements that are over and above the standard return that we complete, because when we complete the authority pro forma tool, that does give us an indication of effectively complies with the guidance of that particular return. We also got notification through for a disapplication request. This is a request that we put through where we need to make a specific adjustment for, in this case, a school with historic overfunding issues. That was approved by the SFA on the 20th of January. So again, working the background of that process, and again, detailed in the cabinet report. So we had the compliance questions that then resulted in a few further challenges that went through the early to mid part of February, looking at how the process works. What we looked at, the specific issues where the business rates in an NDR process has been centralised by the SFA. So again, a different approach for the organisation to deal with. But again, we've worked through that with colleagues at the SFA, and this again, moving forward, looks like that will be a helpful process that will centralise a specific issue with that. The final approval for the authority pro forma tool, which effectively is the agreement to use that documentation to issue to schools, that came through on the 17th of February. So effectively the SFA signed it off at that point, so their validation checks were satisfied. So we've then sort of taken that information, sorry, from 21st of February, it was confirmed. We've used that information to produce individual school budgets that have now been issued to the schools on the 28th of February, and that will result in individual schools then reviewing all their budget allocations for 2022-23 and how they will effectively apply those costs, and how they'll apply their budget resources, across all the individual school headings. So again, that process is ongoing now. So we'd expect individual challenges from schools. We have numerous meetings set up with each individual schools at the moment, and that process is ongoing. So we anticipate that be completed within the next, I would guess, 1 to 2 months, I think, is the timetable work to there. And alongside that, we also have to complete what's called a Section 251 return to the SFA to effectively tell them where the budget's been spent across all education services. So again, that works in the background. So it's a very brief update. That's where we're at. That's what's going on with the school finances at the moment. Are there any questions anybody would like to raise?
And just in summary then, David, a typical ed teacher, when do they expect to see their pounds, shillings and pence on the doorstep in an envelope? That
was issued on the 28th February, so that should be with yourselves, well, with the maintained schools now. So obviously it's different in terms of the academies and how that information will filter through. So for the maintained schools, that will be with them now, so they'll be working with it. And for academies, when does it come through to them? It's a good question. Sorry, I'm not 100% sure on that one, but I guess it's linked to the academic year. Okay, Catherine.
Yeah, Darren, you can go online and have a look. They normally send us a letter with the budget on it, but I've just got my secretary to go online and have a look and see if that's there. So I'll let you know if it is.
All right, lovely. Thank you. Any other questions for David? See anything there, so there we go. We'll move on to any other business. Anybody have any items for other business? No questions, no items for other business. Just to confirm then, the dates and times of the next meetings. Looks as if the next meeting is a reserve on Friday the 25th. And is that one going ahead, Natalie? Are we planning to run that? We're going to have a pre-briefing and so on and so forth. So provisionally that one's in, subject to a planning meeting between me, the chair, and Natalie and the minute clerk. So does anybody have any other further questions or comments? Well, that was very crisp. So well done, everybody. Have a great day, and I will see you all looking at this on the 25th of March. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Yes.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.